Hello everybody, this is Shannon with Beads and Babble, and we are going to do a tutorial on making a necklace. The materials you're going to need are here on the bead mat. A lot of these tools I brought out, I may or may not use them, but I like to, like I said, have more than I need so I don't have to hunt for it when we're doing these. I'm going to need a plastic or nylon mallet, a domed head chasing hammer, a bench block. And an alternative to a bench block, if you do not have one, you can always use a steel hammer, the surface here, or even the rounded surface if you're doing some kind of curvature on your metal. But this will work well too for paddling out ends of wire, just as well as the bench block. Just in case you don't have one, that's a good alternative. And then some flush cutters. I have a fine flush cutter and a more heavy duty because I'm using the heavy duty on the 14 gauge and the fine on the smaller gauge wire. You could get away with one or the other. I just have both of them, so I brought them out. Now this is a new tool I haven't introduced. This is a hole punching plier, a 1.5 millimeter hole punching plier. You will need some sort of this. They make different versions of this. There is one that's actually a dual head where it twists and puts the hole in the metal by manually spinning the, I guess it would like the T-bar on it. But just as long as it's a hole punch that is between a 1.2 and 1.5 millimeter hole. A series of pliers here, chain nose, flat nose, and then just some bent nose pliers. May or may not need all of these, but I brought them out. You're going to need some 24 gauge or 26 gauge wire. Either one will work. This wire will be used to attach the beads to the necklace component that we're going to be making today. And then this 14 gauge is what we're going to make the actual focal of the necklace out of. You're going to need some chain to coordinate with your wire. You can do different color if you choose. I had the same, so I'm going to use some bare copper chain. And I'm cut 30 inches because we're going to make an opera length necklace. An assortment of beads, which can be whatever you choose. Once you see the construction of the necklace component in this video, you can decide on what type of beads you would like to use. You're going to need 2 5 millimeter jump rings. You can make these out of 20 gauge wire. And you also will need, I have to bring this to the side, I didn't have enough room, some sort of bracelet mandrel. This is a steel one. There are wood ones, but this is for shaping the focal today. Another alternative, though, to this, if you don't have, because a lot of people don't have these laying around, you can use a empty bottle or a full bottle of some sort of, shampoo bottle of the diameter that is approximately 50 millimeters in diameter. So you'll be making, sorry about that. You'll be making this horseshoe shaped necklace focal. And as you can see, I use this bottle to make it. So this is the main portion of the necklace that we'll be working on. This one is brass, this one is copper, and I textured it with the ballpoint side of the chasing hammer right here, just to give it a little bit more of a texture. This one is not. It is just the round wired with the paddled ends. Just to the side, and I'll bring out some of the necklaces that are complete. Now this is one that was made out of the brass, and then I actually flattened it here with the dome side of the chasing hammer here, and then I wire wrapped some different beads on here. There's some 6/0 and 10/0 seed beads, some triangular seed beads here, and some drops there. You could go all the way, I mean, you could go down, you could fill up this whole horseshoe shape with beads if you chose, or you could just do one. And then I attached, of course, the chain to it using the jump rings. You want them to be able to move freely, the jump ring to be big enough to move freely so that it doesn't bind up as you're wearing it. And this necklace did not require a clasp because it's so long that it just slips over. You can put a clasp if you choose, but it's not necessary. Shh. My dogs are being very disruptive this morning. Sorry about that, guys. They're usually with me all the time, so you're gonna once in a while you're gonna hear puppy sounds. I'm sorry. And then this is another one that I did. Same thing, I flattened out the bottom. It hardens it to retain its shape as well, but brass does a pretty good job of that, so you can leave it rounded. These are just some crystals. I believe these are quartz. I think they're quartz. And then I just wrap them across there, and they freely swing. It's another version, and then I did crystal quartz, which turned out really pretty for a kind of a neutral palette. They could wear it with anything, and the size of the chain, as for the links, that's really up to your discretion, whatever you like. You can go daintier or more chunky, totally up to you. So since I haven't done one in copper yet, I'm going to show you how, because the process is the same on whether you're using brass or copper, but I'm going to make another copper here. We'll start with that. And then I'm going to show you also a little diagram here. Now this is basically a necklace length in inches, so it kind of shows you the different lengths, you know, the choker, the princess, and then we're going to be doing one that's approximately right in here, the 30-inch opera length one. So I am going to start with the 14 gauge dead soft copper wire. We're going to pull, I really like this company. It's made in the USA, craftwireusa.com. Really like this company. We're going to cut a flush in, so we're starting with a flush. It's just a lot. It's a good habit to get into. And then we will also need a ruler if you, I always forget to say that because I use the one down here on the bead board, but bead mat, excuse me. But we will need a ruler of some sort. Almost every project is going to require some kind of a measurement device, so you'll definitely want a ruler or one of these fabric measuring devices here, which works great too. Okay, so we're going to cut 5 inches of the 14 gauge dead soft copper wire. And remember, you're always turning the flush end of the cutters towards the working end of your piece. So now you'll have a 5-inch piece of copper wire. I'm going to bring in the bench block and the nylon mallet, and I'm going to straighten this wire because it is a little bit thicker gauge. So I'm going to just take it and kind of straighten out any kind of little kinks or imperfections in the wire. And as you can see, it doesn't take much force, and you can get it fairly straight in no time at all. And this is not a very heavy mallet. It doesn't require a lot. Leave that there. And then the first thing we're going to do is we're going to paddle out each end of this wire, because we have to get it thin in order to be able to punch through it with the hole punch. So we're going to do, we're going to use the domed head of the chasing hammer, and we are going to strike the end till it's a thin paddle. And then we're going to flip it. And you're striking down and sliding back to move that metal. Takes a little bit of work. And don't worry if your end gets a little wonky, that's okay, because we're going to file that, round that off and file it. What we're doing, our main purpose is to get that thin enough to punch the hole through. And that's pretty good. And then we're going to turn it, and we're going to do the other side. And make sure when you're doing it that they're both at the same direction. So we're going to definitely hold it like this, and then bring the other end down here and paddle out this end. That feels pretty good. I'm going to bring the calipers in to kind of give you guys an idea. So I paddled it down to 0.3. 0.3. Oh, that was pretty good. If I don't say so myself. The wire itself is 0.5. So you see how thin we're moving it down to. So now we have a piece that looks like that. So bring in the bottle here. I won't even use the steel mandrel, just to show you that you can use alternative. And what I do is you're going to want to hold it here, because this is the way you want the metal facing when you're bending it, because as you can see, so you hold it here at the end, and you're just going to use the pressure of your fingers to move it around your mandrel, whichever mandrel you have handy. And now you can see how these kind of bent in, but you can use your pliers to straighten those out, and even your bench block. You just keep working the metal till you get it where you want it. Honestly, the only downside to having something like this, which you can technically hit it, but there's not it's not as hard as a steel thing, so that it helps you move it. But if you have some nylon jaw pliers, you can manipulate the metal even more into the shape that you're going for or desire. Then you take these ends here, kind of twist them so they're parallel, and then you can take and now move the metal with your fingers. Trying to get the shape you're wanting. That's pretty good. Okay, and then I'm going to harden it on the bench block here with chasing hammer, excuse me, not chasing hammer, a nylon mallet. This hardens it also into shape, and it also flattens it, so it's flat rather than raised up. Now I'm going to take the chasing hammer and I'm going to add a little texture because I like the sparkle the texture does. And also if you patina it, it's nice because you'll get the low and high relief of the texture. You know, that so much better when you do that. Now this will also harden the metal and shape it. It'll kind of set that shape. So we're going to start right here. And a good piece of advice when you're hammering, because fingers can get in the way, is to give yourself, you know, make sure you're holding the piece firmly so it doesn't get away from you as you're hammering. And I usually start here at the middle and work my way on either side. And you put the texture on as much or as less as you like. It's really up to you. And as you can see, I'm not using very heavy blows. You don't need to. It's soft metal, so it's going to texture easily. And also, if you're striking it too hard, it's going to just distort the metal a lot more than you probably want. And you can be more accurate when you're doing this if you're taking little bites rather than big chunks. Kind of a game of patience. Make sure your finger's out of the way, but you have a firm hold on the metal that you are hammering because it's slippery and it can go flying. All right, and I'm going to turn it over and I'm going to do the same on the other side. I'm going to give texture to both sides. You don't have to, but I figure since this is a slip-on necklace, you know, you might put it on either way because it's going to be reversible. So you're going to want to do a mirrored side. And thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for the comments. I really appreciate it. You guys have been just giving me great feedback, and it makes me really excited to add content to the channel. I feel like a broken record when I say this, but if you're liking it, please like the videos, hit that thumbs up, and ring the bell. And subscribe if you haven't and you like the content. I'm going to be adding new content regularly. And I do read the comments, so if you have any kind of questions or if you'd like to see something particular and I'm capable of it, it's in my wheelhouse, I will definitely make a video about it for you. So, kind of what we have here, we got the startings of it. And then you put it back, because texturing it, you can see how much it pulled it away from that shape that we originally did. So you just bring it back. You can move it with your fingers. I'm doing. All right. And then now we're going to take the hole punch. And we're going to put our holes in for our jump rings. The hardest part about this here is literally lining up the pliers. So you make sure, take your time in this step, so you don't want to get too close to the edges of this metal. You want a good connection between your chain and this piece here. So you'll want to look at it from all angles. Make sure, just to make sure you got it where you need it before you give it that squeeze. All right. Now this has a hole at the bottom and it sends the little piece out. So see, I have a little hole there. Then I'm going to do the other side. Take my time and make sure that I get this where I want it. Many times I've gotten in a hurry and thought, oh yeah, I'm right where I need to be, and then of course not, and I'm way too close to the side. These are a handy little tool to have, these hole punch quick. They don't leave too bad of burrs, and then what I do after I punch the hole, I take the chasing hammer, and because it kind of knocks the, well, it does, it knocks the burrs down. So there's nothing sharp and crazy there. And I think, yes, and I did forget to mention a file. Sorry, so many tools. You're going to need a file or an emery board for the edges. Just like a ruler, a file is almost a necessity for any kind of metal works. So what I'm doing here is I'm just rounding these corners so they're not sharp. And I'm taking off any kind of burrs that might be there on the metal. And then I test it with my finger. And this is a way to also get the ends looking the same, or, you know, similar. And I just use my fingers as a gauge as to how smooth it is. Doesn't hurt my fingers. It's not going to hurt any other skin. Granted, my fingers are kind of tough because I'm always messing with metal and stuff, so you'll feel it. And I like to kind of use my fingers as a support when you're filing, especially thinner pieces of metal. Otherwise, it'll just bend on you, distort. I'm just knocking down the burrs. Okay. Are you similar to that? So, and that's basically what you're going for, is that horseshoe shape. And it seems pretty flat. I will take the mallet and make sure it is. All right. That's what we're working with. Okay. Now we're going to do the beads. Chain over here so I don't lose it. I just honestly pulled out some similar tone beads. And when you do this, when you go to make your design with your beads, you're going to want to start your, if you're going to do more than one row of beads, like this one, you're going to start with your lowest row and work your way up, because it's going to be easier for wrapping that way. Otherwise, you're going to have to be tucking and it'll be a pain. So I'm going to start off with these pearls, these freshwater regular shaped pearls here. And then I'm going to cut a portion of the 24 gauge wire I have here, copper wire. And I don't really measure this. I just, because you're going to need some extra for wrapping the loops. I just cut probably about 12 inches, it looks like. Yeah, 12 inches here of wire to begin with. So you're going to start with one side, and I kind of gauge from the largest bead how far down I'm going to go with the wire. You can move it a little bit, so probably right about there. So you're going to start your wrapping. You're going to want to wrap it firmly, probably at least 3 times to get it firm. And then we'll bring back in the pliers to flatten this down to really cinch it in there. So I will randomly probably grab, and 20 gauge and 26 gauge is kind of nice. And as you can see, I'll have to alter this design a little bit and see how that the curvature of the metal isn't long enough to allow that to drape. So what I'll do is I'll bring in bead beads as spacers. That'll bring that away. You're constantly, jewelry is an evolving, constantly, design is. And that's how, I mean, nothing starts out perfect. You know, you end up having to work your design until you get it there to where you feel like, okay, this is great. This is worth repeating. I can actually lose one of those. So we'll go like 2. But don't be afraid to make mistakes and learn from them. That's great. I mean, it's just how it works. So I'll continue to string these on here. I think a lot of times just getting over the fear of failure or making mistakes is one of the biggest hurdles in life. But I think they're definitely good lessons. I think we become better people for them. All right, and I'm just gonna, as I string these on, I'm just kind of watching. And once I get to where I think I need to be, I'll check. And this metal on your horseshoe focal is going to, when you wire wrap the other side, it's going to pull in a little bit too. So you could definitely put some spacers in between these pearls, but they're so pretty and the luster on them is gorgeous. I'm a huge fan of freshwater cultured pearls. Oh gosh. Especially when you get the really pretty luster on them. Oh, nothing better. I'll have to do like a hoop earring with them. They're some of the prettiest earrings. For my son, my youngest son's wife, for their wedding, I made her a pair of pearl drop earrings. Oh, looks so pretty on her on her wedding day. Nothing more classic than a pair of earrings, I'm telling you. So that's kind of what we have here. And as you can see, I'm going to probably have to replace that end one there because it needs to be something short. Ooh. Oh, and the pearls. What's wrong with me? All right. Okay. All right. So now we're going to wrap this, go in. Snug and pulled tight together. Relatively the same height as the other one. Now this is not exact science, and you do it. It is some flexible in the design, which is awesome because you can move it around. However, and kind of move that wire. We're doing it again. We're just wrapping around the horseshoe shape here. And don't worry if it's sliding a little bit, it will. Wires, and I'm doing this purposely, I'm not setting it yet until I get it to where I want it. And then I will cinch those down. And we'll do that with most likely the bent nose pliers because it allows us to get into these tight areas. And then I'm going to use the bent nose pliers, push that coil in, just like that. And you got to, keep in mind too that this design is not these wires are not going to be bearing any weight, like say an earring drop, or a bracelet link. So these coils will hold rather nicely here. And then I kind of just over check it, and then I kind of want to go up with this one because I can see that this one is getting ready to permanently fix those wires. Okay, so I got it kind of where I want it. Let's make sure that this one's in. This one's in, and I'm going to take the fine snippers, flush cutters, cut that end off, and I'm just kind of roll it over and make sure that wire is tucked nice and tight against the larger wires so it doesn't snag. Now I'm going to bring in my flat nose pliers to give this give it a good squeeze down here. So almost like a crimp against the metal, so it's firmly there in place. I'm going to adjust this one before I do it. Get it I keep saying kind of, but oops, sorry, exactly where I would like it. And then I'm going to use the bent nose to bring these in. Pull this, you can see how much extra wire I have. I can actually probably use this for the second layer on this. Bringing in my bent nose, flush cutters, tuck that around what's in there. And then before I give it a good squeeze to set it, make sure it's where I want it to be. And then give it a good crimping squeeze. Hope everybody's Wednesdays treating them well. Halfway through the week, always nice. So there is that. I think I'm going to do a second row on top of these. I'm going to use some 8/0 seed beads. Little bag. All right. And maybe some 4mm fire polish beads, not sure, but I'm going to pull them out anyway. I'm going to cut another 12-inch wire. I like having more than not enough, especially when you're designing. So I'm cutting another 12-inch piece of 26 gauge, or excuse me, 24 gauge copper wire. All right, so we're going to start again. I'm making sure I'm wrapping the loops the same way so they're consistent. Wrap 3. Bring in your pliers at this point and crimp that down. I usually leave my tails on until I'm ready to cut, so. I'm going to thread on one of these These are, I think, hexagon. Yeah, hexagon seed beads here, probably about 10/aught, and then these are 8s. I'm gonna string on a pattern that I think I'll like. Continue that pattern. Using the wire to pick up the beads faster than my fingers. You can also lay out your design, gauging on once you form your horseshoe, once you know the diameter, inner diameter of it, like 50, between 50, so you can lay out that many seed beads and go from there. And that way, then you have it. I'm a kind of fly by the seat of my pants kind of girl with this kind of stuff. So, and I know I have some flexibility in the actual horseshoe shape myself. So, down and around. Almost caught myself doing the wrong direction there. Goodness. Just paying attention. We're gonna continue with the wire wrapping. At least 3 times. You can go, 5, 6 times if you choose to. The more wraps, the more stability you're going to have in the holding of it, the design. Got my bent nose here. Tighten up that coil on that side and on this side. Then I'm going to take my flush cutters, cut this end off. And squeeze down on this so it's, when I squeeze, I kind of turn my wrist so that wire gets really snug up there. Here, cut that off too. Bring both those coils down, or at least the top one down against the bottom one. Slide, more permanently fix those, get them where you want them. Remember, this wire is going to move a little bit too. And we're going to crimp them in place. And the tighter you can get these wraps, the better they're going to stay. And honestly, working with wire can be rough on your hands, so you can put some gloves on at this stage, or use pliers to tie, when you're pulling it tight, because you can literally cut your finger. Where did my cut? I did that yesterday, working with some wire. Wasn't smart enough to get the gloves out before I started, so. And what I'm doing now is just working the wraps, make sure they're secure onto the piece here. You can also go, more and lower that down, just depending on, like I said, the beads that you use and the design you were going for. you'll have to make the adjustments of how high up the horseshoe you want to go. The lighting isn't too dark. I'll have to look at that when I upload this. It's been a kind of a dreary day today. All right, so now I'm going to bring in the chain and the jump rings. And we are going to attach them to the pendant that we just made. I'm going to open them up. I'm just using the chain nose and the bent nose here, getting the jump ring open wide enough to accept both the chain and the end of the pendant, one end of the pendant. Slipping the pendant onto the jump ring with the hole we punched through the end, the paddled end, and then we're going to close this jump ring up. I'm going to do the same to the other side. Grabbing the jump ring and opening it up with the pliers. Threading on the chain. And then the pendant. Closing it up. This is a really pretty necklace. And there's so many design options with it. I mean, you can go hog wild on your designs. And there you have it. The Good Luck Horseshoe pendant. Like I said, you can do so many things with it. You can fill it up with all seed beads all the way down if you choose. You can do as many rows as you like. You can use 26 gauge wire instead of 24 for like smaller freshwater pearls, because the holes on them usually are very, very tiny. So the thinner the wire, the better, in the sense if you're going to put pearls on there. So, you know, it'll do a really nice job for you with giving you the ability to put a variety of different types of beads, endless options. So many options that you could make 100 of these necklaces and none of them would be the same. So that is it on this tutorial for this necklace. I hope everybody enjoyed it, and give me an idea on the length of my videos. I like doing them in real time, so I never really pay attention to that. I'm sure you guys can, fast forward to anything that might be not interesting to you, but let me know if I'm doing okay on that. I try to keep them relatively between 30 and 45 minutes because I feel like that's kind of a realistic time to create these projects. So you have, you're not seeing them fast forward, or 2 times speed. You actually know how long it's going to take you, and that's kind of important if you're choosing to make jewelry to sell, because your time is valuable. But until next time, I'll have another tutorial next week. I'm not sure which one I'm going to do, if I'm going to do some bangles or some earrings, but I'll have something really interesting for you guys. And until then, I hope to see you next week. Have a good day.